boys and girls. My name is Mrs. Taylor. It's the perfect weather outside to go on a boat ride today. I wonder if we'll see any animals along the way. Oh no! It's a shark!
Don't worry. I'm not trying to eat you. I'm hungry for fractions. I tend to eat the greatest fraction that I can find.
Phew! I feel much better hearing that the shark doesn't plan on eating me for lunch today. Hey, I wonder if the shark needs help finding lunch. But wait, before we start looking for lunch for the shark, maybe we should go back and review what a fraction is. And then we can learn how to compare fractions so we can find the best meal for the shark. Before we begin, let's review how to write a fraction. On the right-hand side, you see a square. The square is divided into 4 equal pieces. So the first question I'm going to ask are how many of those pieces are shaded blue? In this case, we have 3 pieces of our square that are shaded blue. That number goes on the top, which is called the numerator. Then we're going to count how many pieces are in the square. In this case, we have 4 equal pieces in the square. So that number goes on the bottom of our fraction in the denominator. So our final fraction for this picture is 3/4. Let's review how to compare numbers first. We're comparing 1,352 and 1,312. First, we're going to look at the thousands place. Since they're both ones, we're going to move over to the hundreds place. Since they're both threes, we're going to move on over to the tens place. Since they're different, I highlighted them yellow. Which is larger, the 5 or the 1? That's right, the 5 is larger. So we decide that 1,352 is greater than 1,312. Make sure that the alligator is eating the largest number. Let's move on to the second example. We have 1,352 and 1,371. We start off with the thousands place. Since they're both 1, we're going to move over to the hundreds place. Since they're both 3, we're going to move on over to the tens place. We notice that they're different once again. 1 is a 5 and 1 is a 7. I highlighted them so I can focus my attention on them and decide which number is the largest number. In this case, it's the 7. So this time I'm going to eat the right number and make it say 1,352 is less than 1,371. The last example is very easy. 1,352 is equal to 1,352. They both have 1,000s, they both have 300s, they both have 5 tens, and they both have 2 ones, making them equal. Here are the actual symbols that you're going to use when you're comparing numbers or fractions. In the first example that goes with the greater than sign, we're going to have 2 dots on the left-hand side and 1 dot on the right-hand side. We use the 2 dots because it's larger than 1 dot. So the 1,352 has to have 2 dots going toward it. We flip-flop it for the second example because 1,371 is then the greatest number. So for that example, we need the 2 dots on that side closest to that number. This is just one way that you can visually see that you have the symbol facing the correct way. Now we're ready to compare fractions. Our first example has common denominators. 1/4 and 3/4 both have a 4 as the denominator. I decided to represent each fraction as a rectangle. You'll notice that both rectangles have 4 pieces that are the same size. I shaded in 1 piece of the rectangle blue for 1/4 and 3 pieces orange for 3/4. Now it's easy for us to determine the greatest fraction. You can visually see that 3/4 is the greatest. So we say 1/4 is less than 3/4. Let's look at an example that has common numerators. 1/6 and 1/8 both have a numerator of 1. When we draw a picture of the model, it's easy for us to see that the blue 1/6 is greater than the orange 1/8. We can then assume that 5/6 is also larger than 5/8. Let's look at our model to see if that's true. Yes, 5/6, which is in blue, is definitely greater than 5/8, which is orange. The next math strategy that we're going to use to compare fractions are fraction strips. Since we're comparing 1/2 and 2/3, I circled 1/2 on the fraction strip. It's red. I also circled 2 orange strips since 1/3 plus 1/3 equals 2/3. We can easily see that 2/3 is the greatest, so we use the less than sign. 1/2 is less than 2/3. Next, we're going to compare the fractions 2/3 and 3/4 on a number line. First, we're going to make 2 number lines, one on top of each other. Then we're going to find the fraction on the number line that we're comparing. In this case, we're comparing 2/3 and 3/4. Put a dot on the number line that represents each fraction. Can you tell which fraction is greater here? Which fraction is closest to 1? That's right. 3/4 is your largest fraction. You can tell because the arrow is pointing to 3/4 on the number line on the bottom, and you can tell how it's closer to 1 than the other fraction. Now we can say that 2/3 is less than 3/4.
Now that we know how to compare fractions, let's see if we can help our shark find something to eat for lunch. Let's find the most perfect, greatest fraction that we can find under the water. So, grab a piece of paper and something to write with, and let's start comparing fractions.
The first two fractions that we're going to compare are 3/4 and 2/4. We're going to determine whether or not 3/4 is greater than, less than, or equal to 2/4. Go ahead and pause the video, show your work on a piece of paper, and then unpause the video to check your answer. If you said 3/4 is greater than 2/4, then you are officially off to a good start. Did you draw pictures of each fraction to compare them? If you didn't, consider doing that for our next problem. Let's do another problem. Let's compare 3/10 and 3/5. Pause the video and unpause the video when you're ready to check your answer. If you said that 3/10 is less than 3/5, then you are correct. Double check your work and make sure that the symbol is facing the right direction. And if you got it wrong, that's okay. Check the picture. They both have 3 yellow pieces colored in, but the pieces for 3/5 are much larger than the pieces in 3/10. So 3/5 has more yellow space in it than the other one does. Number 3, 4/5 is greater than, less than, or equal to 2/3. Go ahead and pause the video and figure out the answer. If you said that 4/5 is greater than 2/3, then you're correct. Double check the picture and you can see how 4/5 has a little bit more yellow in it than 2/3. Number 4, is 3/8 greater than, less than, or equal to 2/4? Pause the video and figure out the answer. If you said that 3/8 is less than 2/4, then you're correct. Some people think that 3/8 is the greatest number because you color in 3 pieces, and in the other one, 2/4, you only color in 2. But don't forget that you have to look at the largest amount of yellow space, and the one on the bottom is closer to 1 whole than the one on the top. So that means that 3/8 has to be less than 2/4. Here's our final catch of the day. Number 5, is 1/2 greater than, less than, or equal to 3/6? Pause the video and choose your answer. Oh no, we caught a bad fish. We have to quickly throw it back into the ocean. Do you see why they got it wrong? Remember how some people think that if you color in 3 pieces, that is greater than if you color in 1 piece? But if you look at them very carefully, half of that whole is colored in both of those examples. Hint, hint. Yay, we caught the right answer. It's a keeper. 1/2 is equal to 3/6. If you look at the top rectangle, half of the rectangle is colored in yellow. And if you look at the bottom one, 3 is colored in on the left and 3 is colored in on the right. That means half of that rectangle is also colored in. So 1/2 is equal to 3/6.
Well, boys and girls, you really did an outstanding job learning how to compare fractions today. Sometimes learning how to compare fractions is a difficult skill for some children, but that's okay. All you have to do is show your work on a piece of paper, and then you can visually see what it looks like. Start by looking at the fractions that they want you to compare. Then draw a picture of those fractions on a piece of paper. And so then you're able to actually visually see which fraction is the greatest fraction. Make sure that your alligator or your shark eats the greatest fraction. That's very important to do after you've done all that hard work to figure out which one is the greatest fraction. The more you practice, the better you're going to be. Thanks so much for joining us out here on the boat today as we learned how to compare fractions. If you liked today's video, make sure to click the like button. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on a single adventure. Until next time, goodbye.